Good evening and welcome. It is once again time for CU Immigration here on WRFU LP Urbana 104.5 FM and UPTV. I will be your host for this evening. My name is Mr. Garza, and I'm here to let you know that WRFU is an open forum for the Urbana-Champaign community. Views expressed are those of the speaker and not intended to represent WRFU, UCIMC, or UPTV. These views are our own, and by our, in this instance, I mean myself and anyone whose views leak through the stories that I will be reading to you this evening. So, hey, I'm back again. Thank you for tuning in. It's, you would think, in the midst of a pandemic with everybody staying home all the time, or mostly staying home, like some of us are, that it would be easy for me to just sit down and record these shows, but actually, really hard. Every week I tell myself I'm going to get started earlier, and here it is Thursday night when I'm supposed to be sending this off, that I'm actually recording it. So I apologize for the times that I miss, but sometimes the week just comes and goes by, and I'm like, and I don't have anything new because I didn't have time to do it and get it sent off in time. Excuse me. So anyway, that's just a semi disclaimer that I won't be on as regularly as I'm supposed to be. Pardon the dog. Again, wasn't I talking about this last week? I think I was mentioning last week that there's right outside my window, the neighbor's dog hangs out. That's his he's got a little side yard that fenced in there. He comes out of the house to bark, and he barks a lot. So if you hear a dog barking, blame my neighbors. It's always the neighbors, isn't it? It's never our fault or anything. Anyway, so moving on. The first story I wanted to get to is entitled House Passes Immigration Bill with Pathway to Citizenship for Young Undocumented Immigrants. They've done this before. Let's see if there's anything different this time. So the House Democrats are taking up two separate bills on immigration today, marking the first time Congress will vote on a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants since Democrats won slim majorities in both chambers of Congress with President Joe Biden in the White House. In the first vote, the House passed H.R. 6, the American Dream and Promise Act of 2021, sponsored by Democratic Representative Lucille Robdell Allard of California. This bill would provide a pathway to citizenship for the young undocumented immigrants known as Dreamers, as well as for temporary protected status recipients and deferred enforced departure beneficiaries. The legislation stands to make up to 4.4 million individuals eligible for permanent residence, according to the Migration Policy Institute. The final vote count was 228 to 197. 9 Republicans voted with Democrats in support. We can actually list them. Representatives Don Bacon of Nebraska, David Valadao of California, Fred Upton of Michigan, Dan Newhouse of Washington, Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania, Chris Smith of New Jersey, Maria Elvira Salazar, Carlos Jimenez, and Mario Diaz-Balart of Florida. Those are the only Republicans that voted. Yes. The House is voting next on H.R. 1603, the Farm Workforce Modernization Act. Bipartisan legislation from Democratic Representative Zoe Lofgren of California and Republican Representative Dan Newhouse of Washington. The bill would permit farm workers and their spouses and children to earn legal status through continued employment in the agricultural sector and would make changes to the H-2A Agricultural Guest Worker Program. This is a very special day for us, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said ahead of the vote. We are making a very big difference in how we respect the beautiful diversity of America, how we respect the fact that immigration is the constant reinvigoration of America. And we'll circle back to that quote because that's pretty cool. Both of these bills have already been passed by the House in previous years, but are being voted on again with Democrats holding slim majorities in the House and Senate. They are expected to hit a wall in the Senate. Chances of these bills getting enough Republican support to reach 60 votes in the Senate is very low, renewing debate among Democrats about ending the filibuster. That would allow legislation to pass with a lower vote threshold, but also appears unlikely to happen. House Judiciary Chairman Jerry Nadler said ahead of the votes, the House will send a clear message that we believe in a just, rational, and humane immigration system. I hope that our Senate colleagues will hear us on the other side of the Capitol and will take similar action. Democrats are facing increasing scrutiny over their handling of immigration. Okay, here's the obligatory let's both sides thing. Amid a recent surge in border crossings that Republicans have argued is a serious crisis. House Republicans have been hitting the Biden administration on the influx of migrants crossing the border in recent weeks, including the large increase in unaccompanied minors making the trek into the United States. Many of those migrants crossing the border have said they believe the Biden administration will be more welcoming than the Trump administration, which had adopted a more hardline posture. Obligatory Republican quote, "It's more than a crisis. This is human heartbreak." House GOP leader Kevin McCarthy said at a news briefing on a trip to the border this week, "The sad part about all this is it didn't have to happen. This crisis is created by the presidential policies of the new administration. There's no other way to claim it than a Biden border crisis." The word crisis gets thrown around a lot when it comes to the border, doesn't it? The push to pass these two bills will give House Democrats an opportunity to say they are working to advance immigration reform, but questions remain over the fate of broader efforts to overhaul the nation's immigration system. And while some progressive Democrats would have liked to see comprehensive immigration reform legislation rather than these two piecemeal bills, other Democrats have thrown cold water on the idea, underscoring how much of an uphill climb it would be to pass a broader immigration package. Senate Judiciary Chairman Dick Durbin told CNN earlier this week that he doesn't believe there's enough support in this Congress to pass a full-blown immigration bill with a pathway to citizenship for 11 million undocumented immigrants, a key pillar of Biden's immigration plan. I don't see a means for reaching that, the Illinois Democrat said. I want it. I think we are much more likely to deal with discrete elements. Weighing in on the House effort to move immigration bills, Durbin said, I think Speaker Pelosi has discovered that she doesn't have support for the comprehensive bill in the House, Durbin said. And it indicates where it is in the Senate as well. On Thursday, CNN asked Paul Ruiz, the chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, about Durbin's comment. There's multiple routes that we're going to advocate for. We can advocate it through the budget reconciliation process, he said. When asked if budget reconciliation is possible for an immigration bill, Ruiz responded, there's political will to do so. I think that there is political will, and so, that's a different route. Whether it's a possibility, I think we'll have to wait and see, but I think it's a route we're going to be advocating for, he responded. So, as I mentioned earlier in the article, I wanted to circle back to Nancy Pelosi's quote because I really liked it. So she said, we are making a very big difference in how we respect the beautiful diversity of America, how we respect the fact that immigration is the constant reinvigoration of America. And that second line there is the key point of this. Immigration is the constant reinvigoration of America. I love that phrase because it's so true. Immigrants, I've said this a million times before. I always feel like I'm repeating myself when I say this, but immigrants come here and they have very big ideas. That's why they make that kind of change. You don't pick up, move halfway around the world or even just a few thousand miles around the world to a new place, if not severing your ties to your former home, at least saying, okay, I'm moving away. I'm going away. I mean, you don't move to a new house without a pretty hopeful attitude. It's like, okay, I'm going to like this place. I'm going to take care of this place. I'm going to enjoy living here. I'm going to whatever, unless you're moving just because you have to. Um, Most people who are moving to someplace new are really hopeful. They're optimistic. They're looking ahead, looking forward. And immigrants in particular are like that. They come here because it's like, I can't do this in my country. I'm going to go to America. I'm going to make that my country. I'm going to be an American. I'm going to uh, get a great job, start a business, take care of my family. Whatever the thing is, they're really looking to do something. And they still, not as much as maybe in years past, but still a lot of people see America as a land of opportunity. And that's why they come here. So the constant reinvigoration of America is what immigration really is. It's people coming here starting out. I mean, um, young people are like this, get out of high school or college or whatever, and they're like, all right, my future is ahead of me. I'm done with all this obligatory stuff. I'm getting ready to start my life. I'm ready to do something. There's a lot of energy there. There's a lot of hope, a lot of optimism, a lot of vision. And that's immigrants of all ages are pretty much in that same boat, really. It's that like, all right, I'm ready to start my new life. What do you got for me, world? And as long as people are coming here with that attitude and that feeling, America is being reinvented and reinvigorated, as the quote says, and just re-energized. And that's what we need. We need that. We want that. That's what's made this country the powerhouse that it has been for so long. And that's what will continue making that way into the future. And okay, I'm going to quit editorializing. But I didn't really want to read this next part because there's probably too many quotes from these jokers. But this is entitled House GOP Leader Blasts Biden at Southern Border as Democrats Ready Immigration Bills. So the only use of reading this is just to get a sense of how these guys are trying to sell their anti-immigration rhetoric, or how they're trying to describe reality in a way that feeds the anti-immigrant sentiments that are partly what makes them have voters. Because the GOP, honestly, okay, another editorial aside. Honestly, for a while now, if you think about it, Republicans haven't really offered anything new, any ideas, any deep thought, any solutions to problems. They've just looked for things to complain about and to scare their voters about. And so it's not like, here's a problem. Okay, we have a solution to deal with that problem. Think, for example, the healthcare thing. They fought and fought and fought and fought and fought to get rid of uh, uh, so-called Obamacare. I was going to the ACA, American Care Act. I don't remember what ACA stands for, which is why everybody calls it Obamacare because they don't know. But yeah, they fought to get rid of it, and they kept saying, "Oh, we've got our own plan. We'll have our own plan. We're going to replace it, repeal and replace." But they never offered a plan. Or when they did, or when they would offer plans, it would always be these half-baked retreads of the same tired ideas that were rejected because they weren't going to work, or they weren't any good, or they didn't go far enough, or they didn't really solve anything. So, if you think about the history of that, that's years since that was passed. And it's been attacked up one side and down the other and called everything in the world, but it's never been replaced, or it never been anyone saying, here is the real way we should do this. This is bad. Let's replace it with this. Now, on the progressive side, there's lots of people. Medicare for all. There's a lot of ideas out there that are, this would be a lot better than your so-called Obamacare, because it's not rewarding insurance companies to continue being the mediators between people and their health care, which I agree with. I don't think insurance should play much of a role in healthcare except as a backstop against catastrophic illness. Like if I walked outside to get my mail and I'm hit by a car, okay, that's pretty intense. Ambulance ride to the hospital, a broken leg, maybe a broken back, who knows? Lots of things. So that's what insurance is good for, something like that. Um, Going to the doctor for a checkup or a flu shot, what does insurance have to do with that? Why is there such a thing as insurance for something you're going to do and you're going to get? It really makes no sense. It has become this weird middleman between everybody, all of us, and our healthcare providers. And if they weren't working to try to make money, they wouldn't be able to do it. And yet, if you don't have insurance, you can't pay for your health care. So it's like, it's a ridiculous and stupid system. It makes no sense. I understand why Obamacare was set up the way it was, because we already had this system in place, and it was sort of an intermediate step between everybody's on their own, sink or swim, deal with it as you can, to let's all work together to make sure that we have health care. That would have been the great thing. But even so, it's like, it's a good in between. It's a good start for fixing our terrible healthcare system, and it does make sense. It's like, all right, if you're going to offer insurance for healthcare, you must cover these things. That's really what it is. Everybody should get healthcare. It should sign up for this insurance. We'll help you pay for it if you can't afford it. And I don't know very many people who can afford to pay for insurance, their own insurance, to get healthcare. It's absurd. Anyway, but yeah, I'm getting off the subject. But that's an example of something that the Republican Party has really pushed very hard to change, and yet they're pushing to just get rid of it. They just want it to go away. They don't want it to be fixed. They just want it gone. They want it back to the old days where, you wanted insurance. You went out and shopped around and found insurance, and you got it. And the people would sell insurance plans that didn't actually insure you against anything for low prices. And people go, oh yeah, well, so yeah, you can make it so there's cheaper insurance out there, but it doesn't cover anything. And that was the point of the ACA, was like, all right, we're going to list, here's what has to be covered in order to be called health insurance. You must do X, Y, and Z. And because of that, it was going to cost a little more. And because it was going to cost a little more, the government was going to help you pay for it. It's a sensible idea. It's just not the ultimate solution. Anyway, so God, I'm off on a huge tangent here. So let us read the following article with that thought in mind, and thinking about Republicans in terms of what are their solutions for problems. They're good at pointing out things and making things seem to be problems even when they aren't, and making problems seem to be huge problems. There's going to be, the word crisis is going to be passed around here a lot. But let's see if they offer any actual solution. So we'll read through this as it is and go from there. House GOP leader Kevin McCarthy dubbed the surge in migrants showing up at the U.S. southern border, especially unaccompanied children, the Biden border crisis, during a trip to Texas with a delegation of Republican lawmakers. And we already heard this quote. It's more than a crisis. This is a human heartbreak. McCarthy said at a press conference on Monday after a tour of the El Paso Processing Center. This crisis is created by the presidential policies of this new administration. McCarthy said Border Patrol agents told him sheltering facilities are quickly reaching capacity, and the number of migrants is growing exponentially every day. The California Republican and 12 of his GOP members slammed Biden for what they see as a slow response to the uptick in migrants along the southern border. They said none of the migrant families they met Monday had been tested for COVID-19. Oh, now that's a problem. The Biden administration has stressed in recent days that people should not try and migrate to the United States across the border. Representative Veronica Escobar from Texas told reporters Monday afternoon that she wrote McCarthy a letter when she learned of his planned visit to her district, offering to connect him with folks who could be able to give him a complete picture of what's happening on the ground. Unfortunately, not only did he not take me up on my offer to get a full picture of what's happening at the border, he obviously only wanted a very narrow perspective, she said. He and my colleagues also used language that I think is very dangerous and very unfortunate. She added, "We saw my Republican colleagues using the border and using my community as a prop. That's not new." DNC spokesperson Eduardo Silva echoed Escobar's comments in a statement saying, Republicans for years, including the last 4 years, did nothing to help with the nation's immigration issue. Unless Republicans come back from the border with a commitment to helping President Biden solve the problem, the visit is nothing more than a political stunt. Point from earlier. McCarthy sent a letter to President Biden early in March requesting to meet with him to discuss the increasing number of migrants at the border and to work together to solve it, but he said he hadn't gotten a response. McCarthy's trip comes as the Biden administration grapples with a surge in children arriving at the border without their parents, leading to record numbers of minors being held in warehouse-like detention facilities run by U.S. Customs and Border Protection. They're supposed to be moved quickly to more appropriate shelters run by the Department of Health and Human Services. On Saturday evening, the Department of Homeland Security announced that over the next 90 days, the Federal Emergency Management Agency will help process the high levels of unaccompanied migrant children. Our goal is to ensure that unaccompanied children are transferred to HHS as quickly as possible, consistent with legal requirements and in the best interest of the children, Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said in a statement. Mayorkas may be asked about the situation on the border on Wednesday morning when he's scheduled to testify virtually in front of the House Homeland Security Committee on the way forward on Homeland Security. Amid the focus on the southern border, congressional Democrats are mobilizing on several pieces of legislation that would construct a pathway to legal status for millions of people living in the country. This week, the House will begin consideration of 2 bills aimed at amending the immigration system, according to the Office of Majority Leader Steny Hoyer. We already read about this. So we can skip that part. That's pretty much the end. They go on and talk about the bills and say it's targeted. So, okay, this didn't have too many quotes, but it was interesting anyway. I liked Representative Escobar's comments about offering to give them a complete picture of what's going on, and then they didn't bother to take it up. They just wanted to see what they wanted to see, and that's pretty much what I would expect. But yeah, okay, I don't know. That didn't turn out to be very useful after all. How about this next thing? This is from Politico. It is entitled Senate Centrists, say that quickly, Senate Centrists, Weigh Brokering Deals on Immigration Minimum Wage. A bipartisan group of senators who successfully pushed for a second coronavirus aid bill last year will meet on Wednesday as they weigh whether to wade into another thorny topic, such as immigration or the minimum wage. A group of 20, evenly split between Republicans and Democrats, was formed to push Congress to pass a $900 billion pandemic stimulus bill late last year. Its meeting this week comes as the House prepares to pass immigration bills that will further reinforce the Senate's gridlock on that issue without some bipartisan framework to break the impasse. Excuse me. It's something the group of 20 of us, 10 Republicans and 10 Democrats, will discuss tomorrow and decide whether we take this up, or whether instead we focus on the minimum wage, said Senator Mitt Romney in an interview. But there are places we can come together. You would hope. Romney was among the 10 Republicans who met with President Joe Biden about coronavirus legislation this winter. Ultimately, Democrats shunned the GOP's entreaties as lowball offers, deciding to pass a $1.9 trillion stimulus bill with a party line vote via budget reconciliation. Another member of the bipartisan group who chafed at Democrats' lack of interest in negotiating on a smaller COVID aid package, Senator Susan Collins, said Wednesday's meeting is about the road ahead. We need to have a discussion about the exact role of this group, she said. The senatorial bloc also could wield its influence over a future infrastructure package that President Joe Biden and Democratic leaders have prioritized. But Democrats are actively searching for GOP partners to work on two more divisive issues, immigration and the minimum wage. Senate Judiciary Chair Dick Durbin of Illinois, our guy in the Senate, said Monday he would begin discussions with Republicans on legislation aimed at protecting the immigrant population known as Dreamers and farm workers. And Biden and some centrist Democrats have said they are open to negotiating with Republicans on the minimum wage. Well, good luck to them. I would love to see Democrats and Republicans working together. I mean, there was a time when that, in fact, happened, fairly regularly, when the goal was to get the job done in some one way or another. Now the goal seems to be to, push things as far in your direction as you can get them to go. And that's not very productive, I don't think. So I don't know. We'll see. Up till now, on the coronavirus legislation, for example, this bipartisan gangs idea was just way too low. It wasn't going to do enough for anybody. So we'll see if they, can come up with something for immigration other than let's enhance border security, and come up with the minimum wage other than let's leave it as it is for the next 20 years and then maybe raise it $1. How do you negotiate with that? That's not very helpful. So we'll see. I don't know. I don't know. I think we have a long way to go before we can return to the days of the two parties working together in some way, in some form. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it can be done. Let's hope so. Maybe Biden can do it. That's partly what he ran on. Our next article is entitled "A Profile of Immigrant Women in the Workforce."